Hands is not OP. Hands just slows down the game to the point that victims have to actually strategize instead of just rushing and going through the first open door. So how does that change the game? Let's explore that and let's talk about some changes that Hands does need, but also let's discuss how Hands is not OP, rather just changes the meta for the whole game. All right, welcome back to another video. As I said, Hands is not OP. Hands is just one of the characters that in reality, it's probably one of the most balanced characters we have had that has come out as a paid character. Is he still paid to win? Yes. I mean, all the characters in this game that are DLCs that have released are paid to win. They have special abilities and special perks that do change the meta or like adjust the meta, like Danny, Nancy, all those people like that. Specifically, Danny is a very good example. Hands is a strong character, don't get me wrong. From his rip stall ability to his barge mechanic, to being able to break barriers, it changes the meta where you don't need Leatherface anymore, technically, or you could just pair it with Leatherface. But with that perk, you can break barriers, and that changes a lot because you're not required to have a Leatherface, but you can still break the barricades, which changes kind of how people play as well too. The main complaint that people have is that Hands counters Danny. Yes and no. This is the thing. At its current state, yes, it does, because the ripstall ability has a very short cooldown, so you can ripstall the battery, turn it on, right? Quickly. All right. You counter Danny's Tampered. If someone else opened, let's say, fuse box, by the time you get to the fuse box, you can probably ripstall that fuse box again. So how do you fix that? You add more cooldown to the ripstall ability. You don't nerf that, you just add cooldowns to it. Similar to how other characters have cooldowns. That's the changes that it needs. If people complaining about Hands being too OP are completely wrong, in my opinion. And there's two reasons for that. He's not OP. He just changes the meta. People have been used for the last year since the game came out. The rush meta is what has been working for victims to escape. Now that that's kind of gone, because if you have a good Hands, you can slow down the game, even bring it to a standstill. You can keep people from escaping through certain exits, and they have to strategize. So if you're pushing one side, someone else should be pushing a different side with, specifically if you're going against Hands. Because if you keep him on one side, right, with someone, he is very slow. Aside from his very strong, obviously, like damage that he does, he's not a very fast character. So if you're running away and stuff like that, there's nothing really Hands can do to chase you down per se. But obviously, it's changing how people can play the game. It's changing how the meta works. He is kind of that introduction to, I think, an attempt to slow down the game, which I think is working. I've had a couple games where the people tried to rush, and I was playing Hands, or someone else was playing Hands, and the game slowed down. It wasn't a game that people escape within 3 to 4 minutes. It was a game that people escape in like 10 to 15 minutes. I think that's fair. Why are you escaping so fast? You get more points. You have to actually strategize. You actually have to think and work together to escape, rather than just tampering one exit and leaving quickly, or just snapping one of the exits and leaving. Now you actually have to strategize. His traps are really not that big of a deal, obviously, if you have Bomb Squad. I do think that maybe Bomb Squad might need to be reworked again, due to the fact that obviously there's a lot of people now that have traps, from Hitchhiker to Nancy to Hands to yeah, and I'm assuming they're probably going to be more trap-based family members. So that's something that obviously has to be looked at. Hands just needs slight adjustments. Higher cooldowns to the ripstall ability. I think the barge mechanic needs some fixing. It's very inconsistent. Sometimes you're right in front of people and it doesn't actually register the hit. So maybe the collision needs to be widened in a little bit so it registers at a wider range rather than a straight hit. Because obviously, I mean, it's kind of hard to do that. And I personally thought that it was going to be a barge mechanic similar to Leland. I wouldn't mind that change to that if there's a higher cooldown on that barge mechanic. If you're going to leave it how it is, then the quick kind of cooldown for the barge mechanic is perfect. And I think that they did a great job with putting a huge stamina drain when you use the barge mechanic. It's fair. You do cause a lot of damage when you use your barge mechanic. So that's fair. That's what I'm saying. This character, I think, is one of the most thought out characters that Gun and now Black Tower Studios has come up with, because it feels the most balanced, in my opinion, out of all the paid characters. Sure, it needs some tweaks. All characters do. It's an asymmetrical game. You can't expect everything. People play differently when it goes into live servers. you notice things differently that you maybe as a developer didn't notice. So those are things that obviously had to be worked around and things that can be fixed. And the Black Tower has been doing fantastic with updates, so I have belief that they will adjust those things for hands in the coming weeks. And that's something that I'm excited to see. I think the game is headed into the right direction. Lobbies seem to be flowing better. The game seems to be flowing better. Yeah, overall, I think this is the right direction for the game. Slowing down the game as much as it can. Obviously, there's always going to be rushers. There's always going to be people who escape. You can't prevent everybody from escaping at the same time that you probably shouldn't be escaping all 4 people in one game. My thought. It's an asymmetrical game. To a certain degree, this killer side is always going to be a little more stronger, or should be at least, than the victim side. Because that's what makes it the horror. That's what makes it the tension. And with hands, I think it brings that back into the game. Alright, I hope you did enjoy this video. Obviously, it's gonna was like kind of like a rant. I didn't script it. I'm just kind of going based on my experiences from playing hands over the last couple of days. So, alright, I'll catch you all in the next video. Bye-bye.